Imagine a world where the oceans, which cover more than 70% of Earth's surface, suddenly vanished. At first glance, it sounds like an outlandish idea, something straight out of a science fiction novel. But what if such a scenario were real? What would be the consequences of an oceanless Earth? Not just for the environment, but for the billions of people, creatures, and ecosystems that depend on the oceans every day. Before we dive deep into this hypothetical situation, let's take a moment to consider how integral the oceans are to life as we know it. The oceans are the lifeblood of our planet. They regulate our climate, produce oxygen, provide food, and support millions of species. So, what happens if that vital force simply disappeared? Well, the ripple effects, pun intended, would be far-reaching and catastrophic. Setting the stage, what the oceans do for us. We're talking about an enormous body of water. Earth's oceans hold about 97% of the planet's water, with the remaining 3% being freshwater, most of which is locked away in glaciers and ice caps. The oceans are, in many ways, the unsung heroes of the global climate system. They store and distribute heat from the sun, keeping temperatures moderate and stable. They generate rainfall, support entire ecosystems, and act as the main source of food for many, directly or indirectly. Oceans even play a crucial role in regulating the planet's atmosphere, influencing air quality and oxygen production. Now consider this. Without oceans, all these systems would collapse. The world would be unrecognizable. And I don't just mean less fish on the table. We'd be talking about catastrophic impacts on our very climate, food supply, and the habitability of Earth itself. So, let's venture into the what-ifs and dive deep into this thought experiment. First, we'll break down the consequences in broad terms, and then we'll explore each of these impacts in more detail. 1. The climate would go haywire. What would happen to our atmosphere? It's often said that the oceans are Earth's natural thermostat, helping to regulate temperatures around the globe. The oceans absorb heat from the sun and release it slowly, helping to moderate the planet's climate. But without oceans, this process would disappear. Without the ability to absorb and distribute heat, temperature extremes would become more pronounced. Imagine regions that are already warm becoming uninhabitable, while the poles would heat up dramatically. This would trigger a chain reaction, accelerating the melting of polar ice caps, changing weather patterns, and raising global temperatures to unbearable levels. This wouldn't just mean hotter summers. We could expect more violent storms, droughts, and a severe disruption of agricultural cycles. Some regions might become too hot to live in, while others might freeze over completely due to shifts in weather patterns. Disruption of the water cycle. Without the oceans, we lose the primary driver of the water cycle. Oceans contribute a massive amount of moisture to the atmosphere through evaporation, which is essential for rainfall. If the oceans were to disappear, so would the vast majority of the planet's water vapor. This would make rainfall incredibly rare and unreliable. Over time, most of the world would transform into a desert. So, without consistent rainfall, food production would plummet. Water would become an even more precious resource than it already is, and the landscape would drastically change. Temperature extremes and global weather. Without oceans to help regulate and moderate Earth's temperature, the entire planet would experience temperature fluctuations like never before. The global climate would become erratic. Extreme heat would become more frequent, and once fertile lands could quickly transform into barren deserts. Similarly, frigid cold could envelop areas that used to be temperate. Severe weather events like hurricanes, typhoons, and cyclones would not just be a rare occurrence. They would become the norm, further destabilizing ecosystems and human infrastructure. 2. Water crisis, a thirsty planet. We take water for granted, but the reality is that our freshwater supply is a tiny fraction of the Earth's total water reserves. Oceans are responsible for holding most of the world's water, up to 97%. If the oceans were to disappear, Earth's surface would be left with a mere 3% of freshwater, the rest being trapped in glaciers, underground reservoirs, and lakes. But let's put that into perspective. The total volume of water in Earth's oceans is estimated to be about 1.332 billion cubic kilometers. If all of that water were to spread out evenly over Earth's landmasses, the entire surface would be submerged under an ocean 2.7 kilometers deep. Now, Think about the implications of this loss. The vast freshwater systems we rely on, rivers, lakes, underground aquifers, would simply not be able to keep up. Lakes contain only about 0.01% of Earth's total water, and rivers hold a minuscule 0.001%. With the oceans gone, freshwater reserves would quickly dwindle, leading to a dire water scarcity crisis. The impact of this wouldn't be immediate, but over time, the effects would be devastating. Without access to fresh water, human life would become impossible, and other species would follow suit, unable to adapt to the changing, hostile environment. 3. Life would struggle, then perish. Human survival, the odds aren't good. Could humanity survive without oceans? In short, no. While it's theoretically possible to survive without oceans for a short time, the long-term consequences would be too severe. Humans are heavily reliant on the climate stability that oceans provide. Without the oceans, we would face extreme temperatures, lack of food, and water scarcity. The absence of the ocean's regulating role in the water cycle would lead to widespread droughts, devastating agriculture, and ultimately a massive food crisis. Coastal cities would be abandoned as the sea disappears, and inland areas would dry up. Human civilization, already struggling with climate change, would face an even more dire future without the oceans. The end of life as we know it. If Earth's oceans were to disappear, the majority of life forms, including us, would face extinction. The oceans are vital to the production of oxygen through phytoplankton, which accounts for up to 50 to 85% of the oxygen we breathe. Without this microscopic powerhouse, oxygen levels would plummet, making it impossible for humans and animals to survive. Marine life would disappear first, followed by terrestrial life as ecosystems collapse. The absence of the oceans would mean no fish, no marine plants, and no coral reefs. This would cause a ripple effect throughout the entire food chain, causing widespread extinction across species. 4. The Earth would evolve, but it wouldn't be Earth anymore. Without the oceans, Earth's geography and geology would undergo massive changes. Without the weight of the oceans, tectonic plates would shift, leading to more earthquakes and volcanic activity. The absence of oceans would also affect river systems, as the main source of water would be gone. In the grand scheme of things, Earth would still be here, but it would be a far cry from the vibrant, life-sustaining planet we know. The changes would be so extreme that it would become more of a barren wasteland than the blue planet we know and love. A world without oceans would be uninhabitable. As we've explored, the disappearance of the oceans would have catastrophic consequences, from climate instability to extreme water scarcity and the collapse of ecosystems. The world would be a very different place. While the planet itself might endure in some form, life as we know it, including humanity, would almost certainly not survive without oceans. In the end, oceans are not just bodies of water. They are the fundamental lifeblood of our planet, and the loss of that life force would leave Earth uninhabitable. It's a powerful reminder of the importance of our oceans and the urgent need to protect them. Now, I want to hear your thoughts. How do you think humanity could cope in a world without oceans? What steps can we take to ensure that this devastating scenario never becomes a reality? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thought-provoking discussions on Earth, life, and everything in between.